Welcome speakers, and welcome to the audience again. So we come to the final panel discussion, which is about the US FDA 483 observations and warning letters that we all know are not just compliance events. They are reputational, financial, and strategic setbacks. So despite the decades of GMP evolution, recurring themes persist, like data integrity gaps, inadequate investigations, and poor APA effectiveness, and also fragmented QMS systems. So this panel discussion is not about firefighting the observations. It's about building the QMS framework, and that prevents all these altogether. So to begin the first question, I would like to go to Mr. Reddy. From your experience, what are the top 3 systemic weaknesses that are most commonly leading to 483 observations?
Yeah, good evening, everyone. First of all, thanks being here. I think 3 most important challenges or weaknesses in pharma industry while facing regulatory inspections, especially US FDA, are number 1, according to me, is the lacking of quality oversight. The lacking of quality oversight in terms of conducting adequate investigations for the product failures and customer complaints. What is expectation is, according to the US FDA, basically they wanted to look at the quality unit is really cautious about the failures, and the failures are in control by conducting the adequate investigation. That means the quality of investigations, especially the root cause analysis, whatever the tool you choose, the analytical tool or statistical tool, but whether the quality unit is really achieved the desired output in terms of the exact root cause identification, and the corrective and preventive action. See, the root cause is identified and the CAPA effectiveness is important. How this CAPA is tracked. So what kind of system they follow, the firm, and if really this is being done, then the failures obviously should not repeat. So that is one of the important area where we need to look into. And the second one is, second weakest area according to me is failure to comply the data integrity area. In the laboratory, most of the firms nowadays in India, they are clear about the implementation of Part 11 compliances through digitization. So we had a lot of discussion, our colleagues before this. And apart from the laboratory, the more focused area is shifted now into the shop floor. So in the shop floor, the process SOPs, standard operating procedures, versus the practices. If the process or SOPs are clear with the documents, the practices are not aligned. So there are the gaps, and those areas are really coming into the scope of integrity issue. And similarly, the most important area where the contamination possibilities are more, that is our microbiology laboratory. So in the microbiology laboratory, see, most of the companies even still today in India are having without digitization. The manual procedures are more. So obviously the choosing shortcuts and adopting errors may be more. So that is one of the area where we are really struggling as an industry, and giving the scope for integrity issues. And the third area is contamination controls. This is one of the weakest area. Nowadays, the investigators are more keen into the contamination possibilities where the risk is more, especially the equipment cleaning procedures. Procedures are there, everywhere procedures are there, the validations are very clear. The documents are really put in place. But what is missing is, while demonstrating practically, so nowadays they are not going by the records. Earlier, the SOP, then the records and the results. So now that is not the situation. So the situation is clearly getting shifted to the live demonstrations. So investigators are, going to the shop floor and, asking to perform the cleaning, like swab sampling, for example, and, collecting the sample and analyze in front of. So these kind of controls are more. And other area is, obviously, I already mentioned, the microbiology area is one of the weakness. So these are the three top areas where we are getting, the observations are more.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Moving to Mr. Gilad, across global markets, what recurring QMS blind spots do regulators consistently flag? Are you able to hear us?
Yeah, I can hear.
Great.
The question was to me, right, or Ashmi?
Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you. So from a QMS or eQMS perspective, if the question is why 483s are happening in the first place, I would say that most 483 observations are not isolated incidents. They are basically symptoms of systematic quality gaps. And nearly 70% of the 483s, which are issued to drug manufacturers, they cite procedural deficiencies which are tied to documentation, CAPA, and data integrity that was already mentioned. And the root cause is rarely a single failure. It's more of being having fragmented systems, lack of traceability, and also insufficient oversight that allows problems to accumulate silently. So this is at least how we see it from kind of being, information system experts of eQMS. When we're looking on 483s, these are the what we see in terms of why they happen.
Okay. The second question is, how often do digital QMS systems fail, not because of technology, but because of poor configuration and governance?
So in terms of when the QMS solution fails, I would basically say or answer what is the FDA, as an example here, is really looking for. And they are not looking just for, let's say, a corrective action plan. They want evidence. They want to see the control document changes, the completed training records, and also the full audit trails. And if you don't have that, even if you answer in a very well intention, let's say, it will not be sufficient. And only about, let's say, a third of the responses include a clear documented effectiveness check for CAPAs. And this is a big gap that the inspectors will notice immediately.
So we'll move to Ms. Shadick. In biologics and vaccines, where regulatory scrutiny is intense, and how do you future-proof QMS?
Good evening all. And this biologics and vaccines, I'll start from the post-pandemic. Post-pandemic in year 2022, the inspections are highly intensified, right? So some virtual inspections happened in year 2021 and 22. Later, it's kind of flood of inspections, I can say. I have faced within 1 year 23 regulatory inspections. So that kind of inspections, that too on-site inspections. Okay. So during that time, the inspectors are deep driving because it was almost 2 years they didn't come for the facility inspections. So they were deep driving, and most of the inspections, past 3 years data, if I can say, around 2,500 inspections happened in year 2022. Then 800, around 3,000 in 2024. The FDA warnings, we can say it is around 250, 280, and 300. So year by year, it is increasing. So it is not decreasing.
Okay.
Having all, the tools and all education system and trainings, but still, it is increasing. So the top 5, if you take, what is the root cause for this, the key issues? The first, and almost we can say that, it is data integrity violations. That was the foremost one. Then second one is GMP, CGMP principles are not followed. Then quality management system is not well established. The investigations are poor, or the OOS are not investigated thoroughly. Then laboratory practices, as I mentioned, laboratory practices and stability failures. The fifth one is like supplier quality management. So these are all the key issues. And then the last, contamination control strategy and environmental monitoring failures. So these are all the key issues identified past couple of years. So how to take effective, how to resolve the issues? So the first, do the gap analysis as per the regulatory requirements. Implement the risk management, wherever don't just follow the old principle as per, just follow the guidelines, but do the risk assessment for respective what is your product you are using. It is aseptic products, or it is the biologics, or whatever it may be. So do the risk assessment based on ICH Q9. Then do the gap analysis for the contamination control strategy as per EU GMP Annexure 1. Then implement the digitalization tools wherever applicable, like eQMS or LIMS or SCADA, even environmental monitoring digitalization tools are there. And follow the principles like Alcoa++ principles. Have a strategy, the first, short-term strategy and long-term strategy we can have. First, because CAPEX is required for digitalization, and also the management has to agree for that, right? So first, do the regulatory compliance and procedure versus practice. Then have a long-term strategy for implementation of the digitalization process. And then use for contamination control strategy, use wherever applicable the closed systems, and then the sterility methods, wherever the microbial reduction methods, use applicable ways of reducing the contamination risk. So this way we can, for the supplier quality, again, have the risk-based approach. How intense, repeatedly the supplier is having issues. Can we find the alternative good supplier? How risk-based approach we can have. So this way we can mitigate.
Okay. And the second part of the question is how to see the effectiveness of the CAPA implementation, and how do you handle human error deviations?
Okay. This is actually my favorite topic. In my previous organization, I was the mentor for a black belt student who was handling all the different facilities. He was managing the human error related deviations. So this is one of the major challenges. As I mentioned, multiple FDA observations. So again, based on the top 10, if you segregate how it leads to, how it connects to the human error, it will have high intense human error related deviations. So what is human error? Human error is the person who is doing some mistake or lapse unintentionally. If it is doing intentionally, probably that will lead to kind of data integrity issues. Due to unintentional way, he is doing some mistake which is leading to a wrong decision or wrong process, or some failure it is occurring. So for that, how human error, we can classify in 3 to 4 categories. Lapses, then it could be like intentional or unintentional, then it could be the data-based, the procedural deviations, procedural lapses, or it could be behavioral-based issues, or it could be the education or training lapses. So generally during if there is any deviations occurs, if it is concluded as a human error, like high level it is left to human error, we are not deep driving into the lower level. So we need to understand, next level we need to understand why the human error is occurring, like one deviation occurred. So approach should be like 8D approach. Describe the deviation in detail, like 5W and 1H. Then describe detail in detail. If the problem statement is detailed enough, then ultimately 80% of our issues will be resolved. And then form a team, form a cross-functional team. So before forming the cross-functional team, each area we need to have the lead SME. Like if it is the microbiology, cross-contamination, or data integrity, or the process controls, or calibrations, or validation, everywhere we need to have a SME. So the lead investigator should be part of the, the lead investigator should be part of the leading the investigation. And the cross-functional teams should support. So when we are doing the investigation, first, like we need to have the immediate correction. If there is a fire, what we'll do? Immediately we will apply water or whatever. Immediately we'll see that, the fire should be ceased. So that is immediate correction. So find out that data integrity or the human error related deviations. Immediately where it occurred, just hold it and see that whether it is impacting to the previous batches or the product what we have sent it to the market. If specifications due to one human error related, instead of that 0.8 to 1.2 the assay limit. But the person he has kept due to human error, he kept 0.6. So the 0.6 low potency, right? So with that low potency, when he has revised the specification, since from when to when the last batches, whether it is sent to the market, then immediately do the containment, communicate to the regulators. Yes, there is some human error, the product is impacted, so hold the batches. Then corrective actions, preventive actions, that follows. So for the CAPA actions, so if the problem statement is right, your root cause will be identified, proper root cause will be identified. Then based on the proper root cause, proper CAPA actions shall be fixed. If the root cause is wrong, your CAPA action is also wrong. It would lead to the different CAPA actions. So once the CAPA is identified, do immediate corrections, then corrective actions. The corrective actions could be revising the specification, and then see that if it is the multiple facility, globally you see that how many such specifications. Do a detailed review for all the specifications or any other documents pertaining to that, and then what are the regulatory submissions we did, likewise. Then preventive actions, how to do the prevention to attach some POCOYAK or some foolproof systems we can make it. Then for coming to the effectiveness check, how the data collections are like. If it is recurring multiple times or the data collections are more, probably we can shorten the CAPA effectiveness check data, or if it is longer term, if the batches are like example, if the batches are manufactured monthly once, then you can have longer term, like 6 months you can have the CAPA implementation verifications. So you need to have the patience and verify the repeatedly whether whatever the actions, CAPA actions taken, whether it is repeatedly happening any other time, whether any repeated deviations are occurring, we need to monitor. And statistically we need to monitor. And we need to have some validation of that effectiveness check. And then if complete effectiveness check is verified, then we can close the CAPA. In case our effectiveness check is not effective probably we need to have one more deviations and reanalyze the proper investigation tools and do the CAPA analysis. So this is the process flow we need to follow. So human error, don't just leave it on the surface level, deep dive, further go into detail and analyze, then you can fix the human error related deviations. If we leave it like, if it is one of the cause like that, if we leave it, it will remain in the system. So FDA expects, don't fix the person, fix the issue, fix your systems. So generally the blame games are occurring, many of the organization. If there is any human error, fire the person, just send him out. That's not, as a leader, we need to see what is the environment, why he is doing. Is there any ergonometric issue? Or he is forgetting? Our steps, the instructions are clear. Our education, I don't want to use the training words. One of the regulator, he taught me, Indian here we are using that training. Training is for pets, cat or animals. For human, it is education. How are you educating your team? How are you improving their effectiveness check of their understanding? So this is the way we can improve it. Again, the tools could be, again I will come to that digitalization process that will have more pull-through system like electronic batch documents or LIM systems, SCADA, MES connected. So wherever see that, like if there is any autoclave. So without completing the validation or the calibration, it can be started. After that, there is a human error, the person didn't verify. Have the MES SCADA system, fix the due date. If the due date is exceeding, it should not allow to start. So that way, wherever applicable, just fix the system, fix the issues, not the person. This is my thought process. Thank you.
Thank you. So we move to Mr. Rajiv Lochan. How can process automation reduce human-dependent compliance risks?
Means, suppose when the person is doing any batch manufacturing operations, especially in API facilities, he'll have a multi-product facilities. So when he's doing a X product, he'll set a set point, suppose 10 degree to 20 degrees is a set point allowable, and he'll set a set point of 15, and he starts the operations. After a period of time, so he has to start a next batch. The set points are in a different range, 20 to 30. Then he confuses and set a 15. Then it's going to be an error. So that's going to create a lot of problem because it's a batch manufacturing record. It's not supposed to set the set point. So automation will guide that way so that we'll allow them in that particular, when the manufacturing of his X product, the range of the set point is only allowed to set between the 10 to 20. When the Y product comes 20 to 30, so that he'll not be able to set that set point. So that way the automation can help the user and guide them to a right process.
Right. And in your experience, where do manufacturing process deviations most often escalate into regulatory observations?
Mainly when there is alarms comes, that's a deviation from the set point, and it's going beyond the border, the limits set. So once this is the things, and it is coming over and over repeatedly, there is a problem in the process, because FDA tells us you have to follow a science-based approach to produce a product. Otherwise, the product get denatured. Yeah. So that is the reason. So you need to have that control in the thing, whether the equipment is reliable or not, whether the measurement is reliable or not. Those are the things we need to investigate. Root cause analysis we need to carry out.
Yeah. Thank you. So I'll go to Mr. Ramkumar. As a COO, how do you balance operational targets with compliance rigor without compromising either?
Yeah, good evening. It's a good question. It's not only for a COO. I would keep it as any operation head or any site head. He must treat compliance as the integral part of the operations. It's not as a separate activity. And the key is to build the compliance into your operational framework rather than treating that as an afterthought. I focus on 4 things. The first one is I'm a strong believer of quality by design. The process design itself is a compliance driven. So be it an SOP or it is a validation protocol or your change control, when you bring this process design itself so that the operation team, they don't have any option to bypass it for their the efficiency point of view. The second thing is we should create a data-driven monitoring where the operational team also is being monitored through a KPI. It should be their part of KPIs, be it a kind of what is your deviations, what is your OOS rate, what is your audit observations, what is your internal audit observations, and the failure rate, so that you don't get a productivity in the absence of the quality issues, so that you also monitored based on your quality performance rather than only your production targets. And the third thing is we invest on the accountability and the transparency. The shop floor team must feel that I can go and tell these are all the deviations happened rather than hiding it. So when you create that kind of an accountability and transparency, team will report you early. Otherwise, they try to hide, then it becomes a major issue when you take an multiple number of batches. You will not be able to address those deviations. The fourth one is invest on the training and also the cross-functional collaborations between your regulatory team and quality team. When they understand the regulatory pathway beyond the control, they look at as it's a day-to-day execution rather than they look at as perceived as a showstopper or a threat. So the one-liner is the sustainable, successful operational performance is fully dependent on how you build compliance into your operating model.
And the second question is, what financial impact does a warning letter truly have beyond the obvious regulatory cost?
See, it has got a multiple impact on the entire business performance. One is your remediation cost. Based on the severity, you get into an external consultant, you redesign your process, you get into investing on that. It could lead to millions of rupees. And the second one is your revenue loss. Since you get into a warning letter, your approvals will get delayed. You will not be able to supply the material. You might get into an import alert. That's the second point. And the third one is the kind of an opportunity loss. The entire leadership team will be working on remediation rather than working on their strategy growth. Otherwise, they would have been focusing on their strategy growth. And the fourth one is the entire the team will be focusing on the it also increases the operating cost. You will build an additional layer, you will increase your internal audits, you get into a digital tool. So investing proactive in compliance is it's far less than the regulatory warning letters.
Thank you so much, sir. As we've almost run out of time, I'm gone 2 minutes above, so we would like to conclude, and I would like to state that it is clear that avoiding 483s is not just about surviving inspections, it is about designing systems that make compliance inevitable. So a strong QMS is not a department, it is a leadership behavior, a digital architecture, a process discipline, and a cultural ownership. So if Indian pharma aims for sustained global credibility, prevention must replace reaction. Thank you so much.
Okay, so we have a question raised. One sec, I'll hand over the mic to you.
Hello, this is Dr. Kumar from Alembic Pharmaceuticals. I just wanted to understand, so now most of us are moving from small molecules to, let's say, complex biologics or, let's say, ADCs, PDCs, something like that. So what sort of data integrity related issues are can come, and what is your solution for these things?
Be it a small molecule or large molecule, or
basically these products will have, let's say, more number of steps, and batch processing will have days to months. So how do you monitor these things, and what sort of precautions one can take?
as I mentioned earlier, the system, whatever you are investing, it has to have the proper data integrity built in and connected to the digital software continuously for traceability, lot trace, and there should not be any data loss. Sometimes I have found in some customers, the behavior of data loss is also, it's not a very predictive pattern. Sometimes some batch passed, sometimes there is a gap, no data. Again, it's on, inconsistency in the data loss. And these are all the one which really disturbs in the complete data integrity coming into the system. And the audit trail credibility, working on user management and log, and the incidents. In certain incidents happens in one of the HMI or the operator who performs. If sometime the misses the trace in the complete equipment audit trail chain in the history, this we have seen. Another challenge what we have seen is the operator perform the task, things are recorded, but the complete database gets into SQL in the back end. In SQL, sometimes we found in some customers' place, it's loaded up to 90% level in both primary and secondary. So if the SQL is a heart or mother of the data lake, where the database you can fetch for any activity for your audit or the production, if that is running at 90% level, just because of the multiple tables are mapped, multiple copying is happening, that's a challenge. There is a data loss happening in there. So in principle, you may have multiple systems, SQL database, HMI, audit trail, but the credibility, consistency, reliability of them is very, very important. So whatever you implement, implement it securely, and it is scalable and connected for the future expansion. That's the key for starting, in my opinion.
Agreed. My question basically comes when you have multiple processes based on the previous stage outcome, you may need to act further in the next step. So when we are in that kind of situation, so this predetermined or pre-inserted data, how it's going to support to achieve our target?
Like you may have one operations of unit operations connected to the another unit operations, and that could be a batch or anything. So the trace of the lot from the first operation, how much you can have that lot trace batch when it gets into the net unit operation and continue till your final process. So that's a key in implementing cohesive process steps. And again, it depends on the individual SOPs. And probably Rajiv, you want to add anything?
Basically, when you're having multiple steps, because you have to pass through a different equipments, when you're passing from one equipment to another, what is the cleanability of that, and how it has been cleaned, how it is verified, whether the cleaning path has been done, all those things. Pre-checks have been done. And also the automation will help you in guiding the things rather than it will, suppose like what I told you earlier, the set points, guiding. Suppose the set points, if it is a manual thing, if it's auto, all those things are set at the higher level and all the informations are passed down to the different units, operations. When all the set points are driven, so it will delegate to the next unit operation. That's how it will delegate to the next thing, because the temperature, pressure, and what is the chemical deformation or the chemical denature, before that, it has to be transferred. Those things will be taken care. Especially in the biological things, the sterility is very, very important. So when you sterilize it, and you need to hold the line in a positive pressure. If the positive pressure is not there somewhere while changing it, the operator misses by manual thing, it's going to create a negative and attracts the outside element that is going to contaminate you. So automation, what it will help you, so it will guide you to the operator to do the right things always. The repeatability is more important for your process. So, and the science-based judgments has to be taken at the right step. Otherwise, it will create a wrong product.
Thank you.
Hope I answered your questions.
Any more questions? So is there any more questions? If you have, probably you can connect with, okay, sure, sir.
Is it possible to extract a contemporaneous data from an R&D? Are you expecting that regulators or somebody else?
We call it as a time series data. The data which is already there.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, the data is there. So based on those data, how the process has been done, that is what US FDA is requiring those things. So that is a trust. So the data is there and the batch, how it is processed in each step.
I mean to say that one, suppose I made an operation at 9 o'clock,
Yeah.
but it is not possible for me to record the same at the same time because I may have to take some more time like 10:30 or 11 o'clock. But yeah, because I have to remove my gloves and I have to, there are several operations when you are working at R&D and how it is possible because there are the contemporaneous means these are two sides of the coin, while operating and while recording.
Yeah, we need to have it, data recording systems should be there so that it records the data. if it is a manual thing, so you need to
because the recent CQA audit at the R&D pointed out these kind of things, and I think they have not made any kind of solution to us. But I just wanted to know about your opinion.
Discuss and we can help you out.
Yeah.
I'll tell you the other situations. Suppose you are getting a material into your warehouse where there is no internet in your facility. So we have a facility in a tab, so it will record the data, what is recorded at the time. When you come back to the lab or warehouse, so when the internet is connected, it will record the system date, system time and date. So that will be transferred automatically. So even though it is out of the network, when we get it back, it becomes the same data what you entered at the right time.
But do you expect those kind of situations prevail in India?
So we need to work out a solution.
Okay.
What is your problem statement? Based on that, we can give you a solution. Not a problem.
Yeah, thank you.
I just gave an example.
Okay, so we have one more question coming up.
Probably I will not come in between you and the lunch, the dinner and the cocktails and the mocktails. One quick question.
Yeah.
I want your thought process on the two words which you are using. In fact, the whole group also wants to achieve that. The digital maturity. When we talk about it, what is that which you foresee in the next 2 years, 5 years, and in the next 10 years, as far as the pharmaceutical industry is concerned? Thank you.
Yeah, digitalization, everybody is hearing is digitalization. What is digitalization? We want to have it data as per the US FDA W5s. So those are the data needs to be captured in the system and how it needs to be translated into an action. That's what it only relies on those things.
I can only say, adding to Rajiv, the right word was used is digital transformation is fine. Digital trust, it's going forward. So digital trust is going to be a key differentiator. That's every industry would look for in the going forward.
So when I use the word digital maturity, that's where.
No, the maturity is kind of, it differs from person to person. It's a scalable. Trust do not change. No scale for it.
Okay.
So that's a differentiator. Yeah, thank you.
How you put the control and so we need to trust the data.
So we have a question coming up. So you can.
Hi, this is a wonderful insight. So my question is, so when you talk about automation, right, we are dealing with a lot of sensors capturing data. So what you see in terms of regulatory understanding of maturity of all those sensors, how we are placed in terms of integrating those sensors in our quality compliance system. So, and how do you see industry evolving, right, in terms of evaluating these sensors and strategically placing this sensor, whether in R&D, whether it's in manufacturing? Any insight, anything that you have come across in the pharmaceutical ecosystem?
The instruments, basically when you are adding an instrument or removing an instrument, you need to identify the instruments first. The thing is unifying the data, whatever may be from sensor level to the unit level also. If you are having multiple manufacturing facilities also, you need to able to identify the data. What is the source of data it is coming from, what it can make. So based on that, the decisions can be made at the later stage.
Hello everyone. I hope this is the last question. Everybody is hungry. And our table is the one with the maximum number of questions that I can wish.
Yours is not the last one.
Acha, then somebody. Okay, so my question is directed to Mr. Kevin Joshua. You were talking about these multiple layers, your L1, L2, L3.
Yes.
So let me part my questions into two sessions. The first one is, do we have a single source of truth which connects everything, the digital thread, or for example, a product lifecycle management, a PLM system in Yokogawa, which governs things as a digital thread, as a single source of truth, the first part of it. Second part is, we are all talking everything with regard to things that has come up to production. Is there anything at your end that helps in R&D part, like the QBD section part, the CMC cycles, where I'm sure the organizations will be very careful with their confidentiality. They won't be interested in sharing the information or the process characterization steps, and even if it is an on-prem system. I'm not even talking about SaaS clouding. I'm talking about on-prem systems. As a scientist, I was earlier a scientist, so I wouldn't be comfortable sharing my information on a public SaaS platform. But for a digital thread to work, like he said, like Rajiv Karu mentioned regarding that, the traceability of the product from batch to another batch. I'm not talking from traceability of product from batch. I'm tracing the product from its inception. So the R&D comes into place. So my two questions are, is there a single source of truth like product lifecycle management within Yokogawa that governs the digital thread of your multiple layers? And the second part is, what is your take on R&D QBT section, the CMC cycles part? So we have a complete product traceability. Yeah.
So
hope I'm clear.
Yeah, you're very clear.
Yeah, thank you.
And to answer you, we don't hold confidentiality in Yokogawa because we need to express what we do. And especially in the field of pharma, as you know, we are not something that we started Yokogawa in the field of automation in the year 1917. So we've got a know-how in the industry. But when it comes to pharma, especially in the Indian market, there's a lot of drift. And I think you'll know from the past 3-4 years. So your single source of truth is something that's not single, to be honest. It can never be single because we are talking about 4 layers and in between we have sub-layers, right? So you start from your shop floor, like I said, the birthplace of your data. You need to trace back. So before the shop floor, there is your hidden department, that is your R&D. In R&D, what we face a lot of challenges is there are some data that has to be collaborated with the QC. There are some data that should not even leave the room. That workflow is something what we actually sit and work with our customers and users. Because as I said, right from applied research to productions and logistics, we do have the solutions. And the solutions that we do not have, we usually partner up with our trusted partners. But that is not the fact, especially in your case. It is the know-how. Okay? We need, as Rajiv sir mentioned, we need to unify the data. So when you unify the data, we unify in such a way that these are discrete and these needs to be collaborated. So that is where Yokogawa comes into the picture. If you ask me about a single source of truth, today I spoke about the quality layer. You have your LIMS system, you have your QMS system, you have your MES system. They are your single source of truth because they're talking to each other. At the end of the day, you need to have traceability, end-to-end traceability.
Yeah, Yeah, I get it. Since you mentioned that there is no single source of truth, so I'm currently working in a software organization, TCS, where we work with product lifecycle management, which is like a digital thread, which connects all these silos software applications, right from your ELN to your MES, to your SCADA, your PLC, you name it, we have it. So there are multiple platforms like that, which have so far, if I go to my earlier experience of a scientist, if I open my laptop and if I type a particular monoclonal antibody name, my PLM platform, the product lifecycle management platform, is able to show the entire history of it. And I'll be able to connect everything in it. And now we are going a step ahead. We are implementing AI and agentic AI into our software applications. So what I wanted to ask is, in Yokogawa, are you limiting yourself to only things from manufacturing point of view and not implementing or not taking along R&D with you? Because whatever you showed the slides here, I could see LIMS, MES, everything in perspective of QC, manufacturing, production, MSAT, but nothing from R&D point of view. But product lifecycle management that we do, there are multiple competitors in the market. We have Dassault systems, we have Siemens, we have smart manufacturing, PAT, everything. So I didn't see a slide reflecting on R&D part. So I wanted to know if something is happening in those ventures in future for Yokogawa.
Yeah, so I think you got a teaser, a trailer about Biopilot that we spoke about. Biopilot is where we're talking about the R&D. Okay, we're talking about the reactors, we're talking about the in silicos. Okay, all of that we're focusing only on the R&D. So I'm sorry I didn't touch upon the R&D side, but then we do have experts. We have our expertise sitting right there who dedicatedly works on your R&D department. So it is not that we haven't left. I just left them out of my slides. I'm so sorry for that.
Okay, no issues. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello.
So we can take one last question. Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
Hello. My system is on the legacy systems. For the new projects, we can develop and install the latest hardware, latest DCS. That is working fine with all the regulatory requirements. But how Yokogawa helps me to upgrade my legacy system? Because nowadays the challenge is my operational plants, which are quite old, and now I need to comply my WHO requirements. So how Yokogawa helps me to improve my legacy systems, controllers, everything, that I can upgrade to the new level, which compliant with all the 21 CFR e-signature requirements.
So we need to study your existing system, then only we'll be able to help you out. So we'll discuss thoroughly, not an issue.